Second example. So for this example, we have a cube root of negative 4,913. Okay. And we're going to use this rule again. All right. So here we go. Open parentheses, negative 4,913. Close parentheses. And we're going to raise that to the what power? 1/3, 1/3. Okay. And are we going to get an answer? Is it going to say like error, no solution, or something like that? We got a negative. Well, remember, what kind of number is 3? Odd. Can we have negative roots to odd numbers? Yeah. That one's good. If it was a 4, a 8, any even number, we'd get an error. Okay, let's clear it. Clear the calculator. Well, open parentheses. Whenever we need a negative, we're going to press this button right here. Okay, so that gives you the negative. Don't press the subtraction sign. 4913. Close parentheses. We're going to raise this with a caret button to the 1/3 power. So parentheses 1/3. If you're wondering why do we need parentheses on the exponent, we want to make sure that we don't get the root, some raising something to the 1 power. It basically says, okay, this whole thing is 1/3. So that's why we need that. And then let's press the button. It's negative 17. Okay. So let's get into something a little more interesting. We got 2 more of these, and then we'll go ahead and continue our work. Let's do the fourth root, number 3. Fourth root of 2 in parentheses to the 8th. Something like this will come up from time to time. Now we're using this rule. Okay? Now we're going to use this rule where this becomes that. Okay? And we're just going to let the calculator do the work. So we have 1 parenthesis and then another open parentheses after that. And then we're going to have 2 close parentheses to the 8th. And then we're going to raise that to the 1/4 power. Okay? You can do it that way. Or if we're using this rule, what can we do? How would we write it? We have 8 is essentially the m, right? N is essentially 4. How could we write that instead? 8/4. And if you wanted to do some thinking and let the calculator take a break, what's 8/4? 2. Basically, it's 2 to the 2nd power. But let's check. Let's enter in this. Let's enter in this one. Okay? So parentheses, 2, close parentheses. We're going to raise that to the 8/4 power. And we get 4, which is 2 to the 2nd power. Oops. So now let's try this one. Square root of parentheses 5/4. Okay. So let's write it in this format. So basically using this rule, let's write it. If you see this, how would we write it here? 5 to the what power? Okay, essentially it'll be 1/2 maybe, or will it? What's our index? What's the number that goes here? 2. And this is 4. So take a look at the format. Which is the numerator, which is the denominator? Which number is the numerator? 4. Yeah, because that's m, the exponent of the base. And what number would give us this? 2. Again, if you do some thinking for the calculator, the better way of writing this is 5 to the, what's 4 halves? 2. 4 squared. So basically it should be 25. But let's test it out. Let's just type it in this way. Okay? We're going to do parentheses, 5, close parentheses, raise that to the 4 halves. And it is 5 squared, or 25. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to be simplifying some stuff with this. Keep that calculator handy. Okay. We're going to simplify to lowest terms. I'll just say simplify completely. And we'll have expressions like this with square roots or radicals. Number 1. Let's say we have 4, the fourth root of 16 x to the 8th times cube root of 27 x to the 9th. And at some point we are going to be using the calculators here. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get this out of the radicals. So go ahead and write it down. And we're just going to take this first one, the fourth root of 16x to the 8th. Okay? So I'm going to do the following. I'm going to write this without the radical symbol. So if I have 16, the fourth root of 16, right? It's going to be 16 to the what power? How do we write this so we have fractional exponents? 1/4. Yeah, we want 1/4. And then the same thing with x. X to the 8th. Well, maybe I want it. No, let's just do it that way for this step. I don't want to go too many steps and lose you guys. Okay? Now let's do the same thing with this radical. We're going to write that as 27 x to the 1/3, or 27 to the 1/3, x to the 9th to the 1/3. Eventually you'll be able to skip steps because you'll do stuff in your head, but I'm going to go take it slow. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and figure out what 16 to the 1/4 is. Okay? So that's where the calculator comes in case you don't know it. So I'm going to say, okay, 16 raised to the 1/4. Oh, 1/4, not 1/14. And that just gives us 2. And then x to the 8th to the 1/4 is x to the 8/4. And then let's figure out 27 to the 1/3. 27 to the 1/3. That's 3. Okay. And then simplify x to the 9th to the 1/3. That's going to be x to the 9/3. X to the 9/3. Okay. Now, I'm going to do one more step. I'm going to group my 2's. 2 times 2. 2 times 3. So I'm going to group 2 times 3. And then x to the 8/4 is x to the what? What does that 8/4 simplify to? 2 times, how about 9 x to the 9/3? So we're almost there. Remember, if you multiply powers with the same base, what do we do with those exponents? Add them. Okay, so our final answer is 6x to the 5th. Okay. Any questions? The 2 times 3 gave us the 6. X squared times x to the 3rd is x to the 5. Okay, let's try another one. Number 2. Okay, we have the square root of 36 x to the 3rd okay, and then times the 4th root of 81 x to the 6th. Okay, go ahead and write those down. Okay, so let's just get everything outside of those radicals. You ready? How would I write, what's another way of writing the square root of 36? 6, but I don't want to, I want to kind of be at the same spot. 36 to the 1/2, yeah. But right now, let's try this way. 36 to the 1/2 times x cubed to the 1/2. Okay, we're just taking it slow. Times 81 to the, what do we write here? 81 to the 1/4 times x to the 6th to the 1/4. Okay, so let's see. Now we can simplify stuff. 36 to the 1/2. Well, that's just the square root of 36. So that's 6. And then we have x cubed to the 1/2. X to the power of 3/2. Okay. And then I'll figure out 81 to the 1/4. Maybe we don't know that one by heart. The 4th root of 81. Go ahead and type that into your calculator. 3. And then the next one is x to the what power? Okay, let's talk about that. 6/4. At this point, let's fix that. We can simplify 3/2 we can't fix, right? 6/4 we can fix. 6/4 becomes 3/2 as well if you reduce it, right? So now look what we have. 6 times x to the 3/2 times 3 times x to the 3/2. Let's group some stuff. We're going to group 6 times 3, which will obviously be 18, times x to the 3/2 times x to the 3/2. Again, we're multiplying powers with the same base. What do we do with them? What do we do with this 3/2 and that 3/2? Add them. So we can say, okay, I got to add these. So it's 3/2 plus 3/2. Fortunately for us, we have common denominators. So this just becomes 6/2. And what does 6/2 simplify to? 3. So now we have our final answer, 18 from that, x to the 3rd power. Okay. So my point is just take it step by step. We got to be up on our fractions, but it's simple stuff like this. Okay. One last problem. Okay. And I'll push this up in a little bit so we get all of it. So here we have number 3. And it's 4th root of 81, which we already did, x, just x, times cube root of -8 x to the 2nd. Okay? So let's start with this. All right. So let's just get everything outside of radicals. So we're going to start with 81 to the 1/4, which we actually already know what that is, right? We did that here. But we'll leave it there for a minute. And then we have x to the 1/4. And then we have -8 to the 1/3. Okay. And then we have x squared to the 1/3. So just breaking down everything. All right. So let's go ahead and simplify. I think at this point we can say 81 to the 1/4 is how much? 3. I'm just going to write that as 3 times x to the 1/4. And then -8 to the 1/3. Let's all figure out what that is. Remember to use the negative button at the bottom. -3. Oh, -2. Yeah, I'm sorry, you're right. -2. How about x to the x squared times 1/3? That's going to be x to the 2/3. All right. So now let's go ahead and multiply 3 times -2. I got that from multiplying those. Then we have x to the 1/4 times x to the 2/3. Bit of a problem, just a little bit. What's the issue we have now? What do we have to do with those exponents? Add them, yeah. And before we had common denominators. Great, easy. Here we have to do 1/4 plus 2/3. So we have to figure out our common denominator. We've done this before, last year, right? So what would be the common denominator, the least common multiple for 4 and 3? 12. So we have to figure out how to get 12 for each of these. So 4 times 3. So I'm going to multiply by 4/4, right? 4/4 is 1, so I'm really not changing anything. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. Oh, I made a mistake though, didn't I? I don't want to multiply by 4 because that won't get me 12. I want to multiply by 3/3. And over here, I want to multiply by 4/4 because that's going to give me 12. So let's see what that does for us. If I multiply 3 times 1, and if I multiply 2 times 4, it's 8/12. Now I do have common denominators. And 3 plus 8 is 11. So I end up with 11/12. This won't come up too much, but it's possible. So now if I bring this together, I get -6 x to the what? 11/12. So that's our answer. -6 x to the 11/12. All right. So we don't have a whole bunch of these to do because it is a Friday, but we need to practice this. So on Delta, we're going to have an assignment where we will do this. Keep those calculators handy.